Happy Tuesday, fifth grade. This is Miss Gibson coming with your math review for today. So, of course, you guys should be on Tuesday, May 19th. Make sure you have this virtual learning packet out. Make sure you have blank piece of paper to do your workout on, pencil, eraser, and notes if you ever need to loop back to something that we've learned previously to help you out for your math review lesson. So, go ahead and get those items out. Okay, so of course, regular day, of course, you guys are going to try out all of the problems, and then you're going to come back to this video and check all of the solution strategies and get walked through some of the more important ones that will be connected to your exit ticket. So go ahead and pause the video and get started. All right, so welcome back from trying out your problems on your own. And now let's get into going through each solution sentence to see which ones you got correct or incorrect. Make sure you're marking down which ones you're getting incorrect, pausing the video, trying them again, and also if you have any questions, to ask those questions. Write down your questions and ask your teachers what any clarifying questions you need in order to help you be successful for math review in the future and of course for your exit ticket for today. Do not hesitate to ask your questions. All right. So let's get into the first one. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you guys can see what's going on here. So you guys were supposed to round each number to the nearest tenth and hundredth using a number line. So let's look at the first number, 16.3224. Now, for the nearest tenth, I made sure that my nearest tenth endpoints was 16.3, so 3/10, and 16 and 4/10. Then my midpoint is a midpoint that should be in between these two numbers, so 16.35 is my midpoint. And then after that, I planted my number based off of the number that's in the thousands place, so that 2. So if this 2 was less than that 5 in a thousand, that hundreds place, sorry, in hundreds place, then I'm rounding down. But if it was above this 5 in the hundreds place, I would have been rounding up. In this case, I'm rounding down to 16.3. So this is where it'll be rounded to for the nearest tenth. Then for the hundredth, I'm going through the same method again. I'm making sure that my endpoints are rounded are the two nearest hundreds, so the hundreds that are in between this main number. So I have 16 and 32 hundredths as one endpoint, 16 and 33 hundredths as the second endpoint, and my midpoint is 16 and 325 thousandths because that's the midpoint in between each number. After that, I am then going to again plot my number based off of the number that's in my thousands place because this is where it will be helping me figure out if I'm going to be rounding lower or higher. In this case, I'm rounding again to 16 and 32 hundredths, and I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth for this place, which is here. All right, let's go to the next one. It is going to be the same method for this one. So I want you guys to pause the video and check your work for the second one. Awesome. So realize why I'm rounding up on both of them. Again, when I put my number in from the original, they are larger than my midpoints based off of the second number closest to the place value that I need to be rounding to. So if I'm rounding to the 10th, I need to look at what's in my hundredth place. If I'm rounding to the hundredth place, I need to be looking at what's in my thousandth place. Okay? And that will help me always to maintain if I'm rounding up or down based off of what the question is asking of me. If you guys have any questions on this, again, please write down your clarifying questions that you need answered or put a star next to rounding if you're still having any problems and reach out to your teachers. Let's scroll down. So this one says Sanai and author are trying to write 108 songs in the next 4 days. If they want to write the same number of songs each day, how many songs will be written each day? So why did I put 108 songs as my dividend? Right. This is what needs to be split up into the 4 days. So I know that 108 songs is my total, which is my dividend. The 4 days is my divisor because it's how many days that needs to be split up into. And then my quotient is going to be equaling the number of songs in a day. All right. So this is why this is my equation. It is not the opposite way around. Getting into solving, I know that 108 divided by 4, I did a group of 88, which is 22 groups times 4, and then 20 is left over. For 4 goes into 25 times. So I know that 27 songs needs to be written each day in order for them to be successful. Okay, let's keep going. So this one wanted us to circle all the numbers that would round to 325. I went through the process of making sure that I put a small number line for each problem in order to show me how in order to show me which one would be rounding to 325. Of course, my endpoints will be based off of what numbers are given. So if I have my first one for A, 324 and 9 tenths, one endpoint is 324, the next endpoint is 325, and then my midpoint is 324.5. So I know that this number will be rounding up to 325. So this one would be correct. I'm going through the same method for each one. So right now, A is correct. Getting into the next one. This is not the same as the previous one because my two endpoints are different. So this number right here will be in between 325 and 326 instead of 324 and 325 because this decimal point means it's higher than 325. Now, I'm going through the same method again. I'm putting my endpoints 325 and 326 as whole numbers. My midpoint is including that point 0.5 for the halfway point, and then I'm plotting again. This also rounds to 325, so I know that this one is correct. Going down to C. Now, automatically, you could probably figure out just from looking at C that this number does not go your endpoints will not be included to 325. So if you just look at this and realize I definitely can't round this down to 325, that's definitely something that should be at the top of your head in number sense wise. But if you also need to just figure out with a number sentence, you can go through the same method again of creating those two endpoints and then putting that midpoint and plotting this number and realizing that if 326 and 1/10 cannot go lower than 326, which is why C is incorrect. Right now, we only have A and B right. Going on to D, 324 and 99 thousandths. Again, let's plot this point out. So we have our two endpoints, we have our midpoint. We are plotting this. You can also realize that this zero right here should tell us that this is going to be extremely close to 324. So again, if we are having that number sense working in our heads, we would know that this is going to be three to round it to 324 and not 325. All right, let's get into E. So we have 324 and 5 tenths. Now, we should already know that this is going to be our midpoint between 324 and 325. We should also know that when we are rounding, it needs to be midpoint or higher in order to round up, and anything below the midpoint will be rounding down. So since this is the midpoint, it will be rounding up to 325. So E is correct. Let's go ahead and light that up. And then last one, 324.9. Again, thinking on number sense without even creating a number line right now, we should know that this is only 1/10 away from 325. So in our heads, we should know that this is automatically going to be rounding up to 325. But also, just to back up your answer choice, we should also create this number line and put the endpoints, as always, plot the point and visually see that this is directly next to 325. Now, so the answer choices that we have correct are A, B, E, and F. If you have questions again on rounding, this is a lot that we've been working on today. Please write them down, ask your teachers, and make sure you are getting the help that you need because we can't read your minds right now from home. So you definitely have to tell us, reach out, ask those questions, and be an advocate for your learning. Okay, next one. Miss Washburn measures a string that is 765 millimeters long. How long is a string in centimeters? Prove your thinking with a number sentence and a table. So, the first thing I did was write my conversion rate. So, I know 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. All right. So in that case, I know that 1 centimeter is the bigger unit, 10 millimeters is a smaller unit. So I created my table by just plugging in the numbers to transfer over to so you guys can see how I'm getting to my final answer. So if 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, I know 7 centimeters will equal 70 because it's just increasing based off of how many I have right here. So I've increased it by 7. So this will be multiplied by 7. And then right here, I'm multiplying it by 10. I need to multiply this by 10. So 70 centimeters equals 700 millimeters. And then that 765 millimeters will equal 76.5 centimeters. Okay. So this is how I prove my thinking with the table. And then if I want to prove my thinking with a number sentence, I can now figure out that 765 millimeters divided by 10, because this is the conversion rate, equals 76.5 centimeters. All right. Make sure you're showing all your workout whenever you guys are doing these tables because it will only help you in the long run moving forward. Okay. So this one again, we're thinking about number sense. So what is the appropriate value of point P? First, before I even get into looking at the answer, what do we notice about this number line? Correct. We notice that all of the hash marks aren't labeled. And then what do we notice about the answer choices? Right. The answer choices are in decimal form while the number line is in fractions in mixed numbered form. So when you're doing this out, you guys should be putting the hash marks as at filling in each hash mark that's missing. And then also make sure that you're converting the mixed numbers to also show what they are equivalent to in decimal points. So we know that if we are thinking of each one as clearly 25 increments, so a fourth increment, so 1 and 1/2, we know that this would be 1 and 3/4. So 1 and 3/4 would be the same as 1.75. The same as 1 and 1/2, that's the same as 1.5 or 1.5. So if you did not get into that, I want you guys to pause the video here and label all the points and also convert them to decimal points right in this moment. All right, welcome back from converting the number line and adding those points in. Now let's look at what I wrote down here. So I made sure to write down each hash mark represents. And then I also made sure to write down the mixed number and the decimal point piece for how they should be looking. All right. Then after that, I plotted each point that was equivalent to what was going on in my number line to figure out what point P would be. Now, I had I already know that 2.5 was the same as 2.5. So I put plot B here. I still didn't know what 2.20 was yet, so I didn't do that one yet. I also know that C, 1.75, is the same as 1 and 3/4. And I also made sure to put that decimal point of 1.75 here to include that as well. So C is here and B is here. D, my my initial number line ended at 2.5 or 2.5. So I know that D is but beyond my number line right now. So this is also not an answer choice for me to be choosing from. And all we have left is A, which is 2.20. And I also know that this is just point, well, 5 hundredths less than 2 and 1/4 or 2.25. So this is where P is at right before 2 and 1/4, and also above 2 and less than 2 and 1/4. So this is where A would be located based off of how I number my number line and the answer choices that were given to me. All right. Now we have one more to get into for today, which is line plots. So James predicted that there would be 25 feet of snow in November. How many more feet of snow actually fell than James predicted? So First, again, what should we be doing before we even get into figuring out how much more feet of snow actually fell? Correct. We need to make sure that we have to add all of the days up of the amount of feet that's actually snowed in order to figure out the difference between the two. Now, we have some information here. So each day, again, when we're looking at line plots, each X represents the days. So on this, it's showing certain amount of days, and then it's showing that how many feet of snow fell on these certain amount of days. So in November. So in order for me to figure out how much fell in all of November, I need to make sure I add all of these X's up in order to make sure that I'm getting the correct amount before I can even figure out the difference between how much actually fell. Now, getting into that part, I know that I have to add every single piece. So on 2 feet of snow, 2 days fell for 2 feet of snow. So I put 2 plus 2 in my original number sentence. I also know that the next on the next piece of my graph here, my line plot, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 days that had 2.5 feet of snow. So I make sure to include 2.5 4 times in my number sentence. 3 feet of snow had 2 days. I included 2 days for three feet, 1 day for 3.5, and then 2 days for 4. So, with that being said, I made sure to add all of these days up because according to the amount of X's that are here, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers that are being added up together. So, here in my answer, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers being added up in my answer. And then this total amount that actually fell in November was 31.5. Now, we know that his prediction was wrong because it says how many more feet of snow actually fell. So this is where subtraction comes in to figure out how much more feet actually fell than his original prediction. So I had to do 31.5 because this is my total amount here, minus 25, which led me to 5.5 feet more snow that actually fell. Secret code time. Your secret code for today is coffee, something that your teachers love to drink, except for Miss Gibson and a few others. So make sure you guys are putting that into your exit ticket for today. Now, again, for this one, when you're looking at line plots, you need to make sure that you are bringing all the data and using it correctly. Okay. So, again, the X's represent how many days according to our legend here. And then the line plot, well, the line gives us how many feet were for each day. So I have all this information here that I needed to use. This was a multi-step problem. So you guys have to make sure you are reading these questions correctly in order to ensure that you guys are getting all the parts done and getting to these answers. So now you guys are going to get into that exit ticket. Make sure you are referring back to your notes, using this time to actually copy down these important pieces of work that we just did together, correcting your own work and reaching out to your teachers with any questions. All right. Now, go ahead and get started on that exit ticket and have a good day. Bye.